And I'm damn glad that we are Damn Radio. Thank you for being here tonight. This is Damn Radio. I am Samuel Trapp, and this is International Flavor. And again, I'm very glad to have you. I have been doing a lot of work today, which sucks, but I've been doing some work, some labors, been getting some stuff done, and that's a good thing. We want people to be a productive member of society and whatnot. We want that to be a big deal, don't we? Isn't that how it's supposed to be? You're supposed to be a productive member of society. Feels like my tone might be off just a tad here. I'm hoping we're getting enough sound out of this little box. And I wanted to invite, if you would like tonight, you can give me a call, 573 and we can chat about whatever. You can see, of course, oh, we should all bow down, scrape low, everyone, scrape low, and honor Donald Trump, who, look what he did. He stopped that war in no time. Of course, you could argue that he's the one who started it. Along with the bad boy of the Middle East, Israel. They get to do whatever they want. But I don't know. I've got a different set of theories when you hear some of this. But I really don't want to spend too much time on that today. When I put this on my podcast for later, when it's on Damn Radio, the Damn Radio app takes over, which is very good. I like having the ability to keep my show on Damn Radio and have my own as well. I'm very glad to be here on Damn Radio. I wouldn't have it any other way. But there's one thing that I like to do. And if anybody's been going out to my internationalflavor.com website, where all of my podcasts are, what I'm trying to do is every day or frequently come up with a different logo, or I forget what they call them, the little profile picture photo that you put on YouTube or Instagram, or everybody wants one, and they're always different, right? And I want to do international flavor, but I thought it'd be nice to have a different. I know what I can call it. I can call it an album cover. But I got an album cover for today's album, and this album is going to have 4 tracks. And the first one, I'm going to talk about. I had kind of a joke. So the first joke I came up with was, it really frustrates and irritates me to hear Benjamin Netanyahu get on public TV like he did after the U.S. jumped in and bombed for him. And not for him, but yeah, I have my thoughts on why the war is over so quickly. You remember, even in the U.S., they were saying that Israel didn't have any air defense left, and their Iron Dome was crumbling, and that's in plenty of Western media. So they kind of had to get out of this because they were getting their butts handed to them with missiles every night. Now, I'm not saying it's been been going well in Iran, but regime change wasn't happening, that's for sure. And so now they are going to be more covert in their murderous regime of going and targeting and killing special people, which Israel is very well known for, and I'm very much against that. Anywhere else it would be called murder and a war crime if you went and you targeted specific individuals to kill. But here in the West, since Israel is beyond reproach, he just took out some bad guys. Well, they think we're bad guys. Should they take us out? How do we feel about that? When you pee in someone else's Cheerios, you're not going to have a very good day, right? When you pee, it's not very neighborly, is it? And anyway, I had this great idea and I tried to get AI to create it for me. But when I did, it just looked stupid. So does everybody remember Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High? It was really Sean Penn. And he'd go, dude, righteous. And righteous was the word going around for a while. Righteous, dude. And anyway, I'm sitting there listening to Benjamin Netanyahu give his justification for the U.S. and Israel bombing people, bombing another country. And I'm not saying bombing is good anywhere. It's not. And don't think I go justifying the bombing that occurs on the Russian side. I don't. I certainly get it on both sides, but I don't believe that you can use the word, God told me to do it when you're doing it. And what did he say was, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was the awesome and righteous actions of our American partners. Awesome and righteous, correct and righteous. So suddenly it's righteous. Suddenly it's all with God. And there's been too much killing in the name of God over the life of the planet. And I don't like it. So what I wanted to do, and my AI wouldn't come up with it quite correctly, is get a picture of what's his name, Sean Penn as Jeff Spicoli, wearing that cool pullover that he had with the multicolor, and sitting in Mr. Hand's class ordering pizza, and he had that cool thing, or stumbling out of his van and saying something like, righteous, dude. But have it be Benjamin Netanyahu, because I thought it'd be kind of funny. Well, because it'd be a good political cartoon. But the trouble is some people don't even know who Jeff Spicoli is. And so it wouldn't be, the focus would be too small for us. You know what I mean? I get it. A couple of strangos like me might get it. But it didn't work out. So, and I was also thinking along the same lines, because yesterday, or was the day before, I don't remember. Recently, I went through the non-proliferation treaty and how it hasn't worked, and how Israel's never been a part of it. U.S. didn't care about any of that. Israel, nor anyone else. Israel, America immediately wanted to limit anyone else's ability to have nuclear weapons, but Israel, not a word, not a sanction, not a word. And Israel is still not a member of non-proliferation. So let's say Israel decided to go and open up its own little state, take over a Mediterranean or a Caribbean island somewhere, and set up its next, I don't know, town, and Gaza North or something. They could take over, and they could put nuclear weapons there, right? Just take it over, or just absorb them. That's what they wanted. They're going to absorb Syria. They're going to absorb the Golan Heights, are they not? They want to absorb Iran. They want to take over everything. Nobody will say a word about that. Anyway, I thought it was rather comical to go through that. I want to go through it. I thought, and I was trying to figure this out, okay? I was trying to figure out why. It's going to be, somebody's going to call and slap me when I say this. But what do we care about Israel? What, in all seriousness, do they do for us? What do we get by having them as a partner? I say, if they're going to be our partner and we're going to treat them better than we treat America, which we do, perhaps they should be the 51st state. Don't you think? Why don't they become the 51st state? And then we have a spot there. Benjamin Netanyahu can be president of America. He could be president of the United States. Hell, half of Israel runs the U.S. anyway. And so I'm thinking that would be a good way to check whether or not people really want that. For example, does Israel's reliance on U.S. support suggest it is just an extension of American policy, or is it the other way around? So a ceasefire was announced today. Now, why was that ceasefire? Trump wants to claim it's all peace, it's all peace. Well, wouldn't have started if you hadn't agreed to bomb anyway. You wouldn't have been involved. I think he had buyer's remorse and second thoughts. That's what I think. And I know there are people, hi JR, that disagree with this and that think this just was an awesome activity. We should have done it. He's much smarter. I listened to your show today. I enjoyed it. And you know what? There's some merit to the arguments that you make. But if I could disagree slightly, I shall. And I know you honor my opinion as much as I honor yours, but I would like to. I don't believe that bombing someone gets people to talk. Okay. Now I listened to a very interesting Alex Christoforou today, so I don't want anybody to claim that this was my initial thought process, because I had similar ideas, but he put it out pretty well for me. Because as soon as I heard ceasefire, I was like, well, sounds like it's almost 10 days from the time that the New York Times or Politico or whoever it was said that Israel was going to run out of Iron Dome defenses and didn't have any more missiles, and that a war of attrition is going to kick their butts. And I said that the very first day. I said, what in the world do you think you're doing? You got 10,000 or 10 million, or a little less than that, up against 100 million in Iran. And Iran isn't the cheapo country that you think they are. I'm going to go a little bit into some of the projects and some of the belts and road and some of the things that they're doing in Iran. And and it's because I knew some Iranian people that I had met that really got me into this, because honestly, every Iranian I met is not some guy living in a desert with a camel, or some guy, I don't know what, living in a desert tent or a desert stone structure, that's nothing but a windstorm coming along. It's a pretty developed place. The fact that they dress differently than us because it's a hot climate. But I tell you what, in Iranians, Qataris, people from Saudi Arabia, and I met tons of them when they wore. I swear to God, I used to think that these men that were walking around, and so you can tell by the cord around the top of their headset, the man. I wish I can't. I'm horribly prepared. Didn't mean to talk about this, but the part that they wear on the top, and they have the cords across the top. Well, the black ones mean they're from Qatar, and then there's the red and white checked ones are from Saudi Arabia, is what I recall. And you would see these men come in, businessmen, okay, wearing these white robes. And I'm telling you, when I was in the military, I dressed appropriately after I had a sergeant, tell me that you can't go. If you're going to be a soldier, look the part, you know what I mean? And I counseled my fair share of soldiers that if you're going to look the part, play the part. If you're going to be a lawyer, look like a damn lawyer, And so these guys go into business meetings, and I've had business meetings with them, and they come in and they are decked the hell out. And when, here I'm wearing a suit, and I think it's a nice suit. My suits were in the $1,000 range, and I had, cufflinks all the time, and I wore the French cuff shirts all the time. I have 80 pair of cufflinks, that I still have, and nice ties and all that. Well, my most expensive pair of cufflinks I bought after I won a ton of money in Las Vegas. And they're black diamond, and they're really cool. And they were $750. And that was my special little deal. And I did that 15, 20 years ago. Bought those damn things. And I still love them. And they're still cool. I tell you what, that was pittance compared to the way that these guys dress and the way that they come across and the businesses that they are running. And just the fact that I got to be associated with some of these things was just incredible. You know, I don't have $1 million. I never had any of that. It was go and meet and deal with some of these people. And they were so pressed. They were just, I thought they were fabulous people. And every one I met was honorable, was easy to deal with, was very friendly, was all kinds of that stuff. And so I kind of see the world a little bit differently. And when they get on the TV and you think about it, you ever seen anything of any note when the TV is showing you anything from anywhere in the Middle East? I tell you what, Morocco is fantastic. Okay, the port city of what is it, Marrakesh, is beautiful. And these are these are we think backwards countries, and they're not. And so when I watch these things and what go on in the foolishness of the U.S. all the way across the board with we created this war. The only reason I tell you that is because Iran, I'm not saying they're all the good people, and there's some bad people everywhere. You know, they're bad folks everywhere. I heard JR today talking about, well, they're terrorists. Yep, they're terrorists. They're terrorists in other countries too. They're terrorists here. And the fact that there was a bunch in Afghanistan, and the fact that we seek regime change doesn't mean we're going to get it. And I still wonder what we get from having Israel and why it's necessary. I mean, in all seriousness, if we can drill, baby, drill, as Trump said on his what do you call it? His foreign policy his foreign policy portal called Truth Social. Drill, baby, drill. If we can drill, baby, drill, we don't give a crap about where the rest of the world gets their oil, do we? Russia and the United States are two countries in the world that could live totally independently of any other country. We can supply our own food. We can supply our own resources. We can take care of virtually 90 to 100% of all of our needs by not importing anything from anyone. And that's true. Go check that out. And there are very few other countries. It was argued that Brazil could do the same, and they probably could because they're big enough. But even China cannot. And I believe, if I recall, that is because of the sheer number of their people that they have to import grains and things like that. But I could be mistaken about that. Don't quote me about that. But I know it's the first two, probably Brazil as well. But the rest got to import, and so we can get. So when I say this, what do we get by having Israel as telling us what to do, or as our 51st, I can't speak, 51st state? I mean, seriously, they're so reliant on us. They needed us to bomb because they were running out. They needed us. And Lindsey Graham talked the old Trumpster into doing it. And, he then gets on TV and goes running around all over the place doing the same thing he did when he's trying to get sanctions for Russia when he went over to Kiev. Exact same thing. Lindsey Graham just needs himself a war. That's what he needs. And so he's got a little bit now that this is hopefully over and hopefully it sticks. Now he's right back to where he was before. Once sanction Russia, China, and India, right? So I did a quick rundown of what potentially Israel gives to us. Okay. Well, Did Israel need to pause more? And does the Qatar attack basically save face? I heard, like I was telling you earlier, uh, Alex Christoforou said that he thinks, and so do some of the people that he was talking to, that was an agreed upon saving face through Qatar. And in Qatar, Qatar has its own air defenses. Qatar could easily be involved in that. You aren't bombing a U.S. air base inside of Qatar, Iran. We're gonna up the ante here. Qatar's got a decent. They got shit pots of money. Pardon my French, and they got U.S. All kinds of military over there. Qatar allowing Al Udeid to be built there. I heard they were building a port, transferring the Sixth Fleet from Bahrain to Qatar when I lived there, and I'm not sure the status of that. Talk about the Straits of Hormuz being closed today, that was a bad deal. That, oh, geez, we forgot about that. What if they close the Straits of Hormuz? Who's the only country in the world that could close the Straits of Hormuz? Iran, and they could close it. And I want to spend some time focusing on that. But tell me what we get. What were the goals? What was the point of this war? If the point is nuclear armaments, it didn't work. Supposedly, 400 kilograms of weapons-grade uranium were hidden in this place 90 miles underground. 90 miles. What am I talking about? 90 meters underground. And you can't get that far with any of the bombs that Trump used. And everybody knows that Iran moved the uranium before that, and now we don't know where it is. Why build the IAEA, like I said last night? Why build it if you aren't going to use it? Nuclear non-proliferation took a punch in the face through this idiocy. So did the IAEA. Took a punch in the face for this. All from Trump. And all from Lindsey Graham, because Trump listened to the wrong people. Lindsey Graham saying on the Sunday channels that Trump's the new sheriff in town. Trump's the new moron in town if he's going to do this, and listen to Lindsey Graham. Bad plan. And people think that this was well planned out, well thought out. No, I think Trump took it in the nose. Internationally, globally, everybody thought he was the peace guy. Now he looks like just more of the same nonsense. We found out the Iron Dome isn't really doing much. I remember me telling you the other night, it might have been last night, I don't know, about the laser defenses that are going on. So I've looked at quite a bit of this, and the reason that Patriot systems are failing everywhere, the reason that the Iron Dome was failing, because I've been looking at this. This is of interest to me. And it's interesting because, I don't want to believe what they're saying on the other side of the world versus what they're saying here. But a lot of Western experts are now saying the same thing. The Patriot-type missiles, the Iron Dome-type missiles are designed to win, to prevail against what? An ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. Okay? But when you swarm them, like Russia did to Kiev last night, when you swarm them with 150, what do you call them? UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicle, and you do it with small ammunition like that, a couple of hand grenades or whatever size on there, 150 of those. Then you follow it up with 200 Shahed drones, which are the ones you see that look like a mini stealth bomber, little aircraft. That those things are about 5 foot across, something like that. And they have heavy payload. So you send over another 200 of those. Those are cheap. Cost you $5-7 Is it 500 or 5,000? Can't remember. But either way, they said relatively cheap in the big picture. They send those over. And then what do they send? They send in the ICBMs. But on top of that, the ICBMs that they're making in Iran and Russia and China and everywhere else, they have, instead of the typical warhead, they have a cluster warhead, meaning the front end opens up and all of a sudden 15 to 36 warheads come out, mini bombs, and they split up and go different ways. Plus, now they're not just a ballistic trajectory, now they're ballistic plus, which means you can guide them at their they duck and weave. They shuck and jive before getting to the target. And they do that to avoid. They have the systems have decided how to do it. I should talk to you about the laser machines. Now, the U.S. All of ours is built upon this as well, and it's the Patriot system and all of our major aircraft stuff, and so. These laser things, I understand that China and the U.S. are also there. Russia's fully testing them, and they look pretty impressive from the videos that I saw. So Iron Dome didn't give anything to us. We aren't learning anything from that. I suppose you could say that the defense industry is getting them because you can always anticipate that Israel will start bombing somebody. But I'm looking for something positive. Trade, tourism, money. They suck money away from us. What do we get? I mean, seriously, what do we get? Exchanged intelligence? They don't exchange with us. Non-proliferation? They're not with us. Weapons testing? They don't test there. They tested above ground one back in the 50s or whatever it was. But since then, we have, they don't join us in that. They don't pay for any of that. They just benefit from us. And the only reason they do is because they are, what's the key word, people, for today? Righteous. They are righteous. And so everything they do is righteous. And I'm not against that. Maybe there's some truth to that. I'm not a Bible disbeliever. I'm not an anti sons of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and everybody else that was, on my Bible days were long ago. And I don't remember how all that came about, but I know that they are a different religion. I know that they follow their own path always. And we always are there to back them up. We're like the big brother in the background. So I think we bombed the old Trumpster, bombed because he got sucked in last Sunday when we were supposed to be on the 15th. We were supposed to be having meetings, round 6 of negotiations to discuss what we were going to do about weapons-grade uranium in Iran. Now, nobody knows where it is. Somebody will find it because it leaves a trace. But it's not all that easy to find. It's not like, at least as far as I'm aware, you can't find it from space. And now there's a potential. And I think this Medvedev thing, with Medvedev saying, this non-proliferation deal we got going on, you don't follow it. So what if nobody else did? What if somebody gave Iran weapons? What if Russia, for example, put them all over? We talked about that last night. Put them all over. I'm telling you, and I only am expounding on this somewhat Socratically, just to get you to think, make some questions. Think about this. Let's see. Did Trump start this war to get regime change? Or did he do it because someone convinced him that they really had weapons grade issues? If it was regime change, it didn't work. If it was nuclear ambitions, didn't get rid of those either. Did it? Why is Israel so important to the U.S.? I'd like to know. Something more than just being, historic religiously. Why is it in a country as non-religious as ours became from 1985 to today, government-wise, they hated everything religious. Remember all that. That still every single president, just about every single legislator, none would ever vote against anything having to do with Israel. And I'd like to know why. What is it? They never articulate it for us. If anybody wants to tell me what that is, what they actually bring to the table, except, oh, gee, there was 6 million of them killed in World War II. I get that. That sucks. I'm very anti that. I've been to Dachau, not Dachau. I went to Auschwitz, and it was not good. I tell you what, that is very sobering, and I hate war. In part because of that. Men are disgusting, and war is disgusting. And should only be done when necessary. And I don't believe this one was necessary. I think I've gone on long enough about that. What else is it? Is Israel our business? Is Israel our business? And I mean that in both ways. Financially, morally, what do we care? I don't know. There should be something. Somebody should be able to explain to me. And I actually did a search just trying to find out why. Came up pretty empty-handed. Came up pretty damn empty. What does Israel provide to the U.S.? Are there any military and economic benefits? Israel's intelligence on Iran, right? Intelligence on Iran. Joint defense tech, like the Iron Dome, but the Iron Dome failed miserably, right? And it's I don't know, plenty of deaths in Beersheba, right? U.S. stockpiles in Israel for rapid deployment. What does that mean? Nothing. Economic benefits? What are they? There's a 1985 agreement and tech partnership, but oil market risks. Hormuz, Iran has BRICS tensions. China. I mean, seriously, I made some effort to try to find something that we actually get from Israel. And not just because we have a shared religious sort of history and background. I wanted to, and that's it on that topic. I wanted to say also that it provided Lindsey Graham with a quick victory and Trump a quick loss, with the punch in the nose, world stage wise. But Lindsey won. Lindsey got him so, and those. When I say Lindsey, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the deep staters, the military-industrial complexers. It's not only Lindsey; there are plenty of them to go around. And but I'm not so sure there was a huge choice. Is assassination now an acceptable military goal? Is it? It's become more and more acceptable over the years. We're going to kill that Osama bin Laden. We got to kill that Al Qaeda. We got to go get him. Okay. Al Qaeda, we didn't get him. Aren't they? The Taliban, we didn't get him. Aren't they running Afghanistan these days? Aren't they our friends and neighbors now? But if you're Israel, you can assassinate at will, and everybody goes, huh, I see. Well, that's cool. I can see that. I disagree, just because on principle, on principle. That's just not something that you do. That's yeah. I'm grumpy over that, as you can tell. So now I want to switch to something else, okay? And I want to switch to the big projects now, because I think these somewhat tie in. And people, you might hear about it. You might understand even a little bit about it. But I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive in it, okay? And I want to look at the Belts and Roads Initiative and scale of the last 10 years, right? And Belts and Road Initiative, let's see, how many countries did I find? 155 countries have signed Belt and Road Initiative memorandums of understanding. 40 of them in Asia, 52 in Africa, 27 in Europe, 15 in North America, 9 in South America, and 12 in Oceania. That's, big islands, Indonesia, those type places. Total estimated investment. Okay, this is why they're liquidating U.S. debt, like I talked to you about last night. China is liquidating U.S. debt. Used to be in their trade surplus. What would they do with it? They would use the investment money to fund the U.S. and buy the U.S. debt, but they're not doing any of that anymore. And it's going to hurt us long term. Absolutely. And I'll tell you why, if you don't know, because this is the BRICS counter, if you want to call it that, but China doesn't need BRICS. BRICS needs China. Okay. And if you take all the BRICS members and the increased role in trade that China is making with each and every one of them, and you look at the increases in each and every one of them, and you look at China agreeing to trade with each one of them in their own currencies, the yuan or whatever else, you will see that the U.S. hegemony of the dollar is what has taken the biggest hit. And it's going to take us a long time. We are top dog, no doubt. But that is coming down. I told you about that when you look at purchasing parity, purchasing power parity instead of nominal GDP. China's on top, not us, because their money buys more. It's cheaper there. It's cheaper where they live. We live in the most expensive place. So the fact that the average person in the West makes $40,000 to $60,000, and the average person in China makes, call it $20,000 to $30,000, their 20 to 30 buys a hell of a lot more than your 40 to 60. You see, so the purchasing power parity, they are richer than we are already. Okay, and the more the dollar gets marginalized, call it, or it takes on less and less of the trade, the BRICS countries are already up to 40% of world trade amongst themselves. It's a lot more than us. We're only at 17% by ourselves. And for people that say we need China more than China needs us more than we need them, you better think again. And it's for projects like this, the Belt and Road Initiative. And what it does is this. Their sectors are rails, highways, ports, aviation, pipelines, energy facilities, digital infrastructure, and renewables. Since 2021, China is shifting away from coal. Okay, let's talk about major rail projects, high-speed rail. We don't have any high-speed rail in the United States. Okay, but China is building the Pakistan Economic Corridor, $62 billion, featuring a deep water port at Gwadar, upgraded highways, pipeline, and rails. It is the flagship of their overland corridor, and it will cut oil transport to 2,395 kilometers through this system versus going around India and everywhere else, 12,000 kilometers through Malacca. You can see that 62 billion that could have been, U.S. Debt purchased is gonna yield some results for them. And before I get to some of the rest of these, I want to point out that the Belts and Road Initiative is not like Pakistan begging to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund for money to build a rail, to build a port, to build any of this. The U.S. controls what? The IMF, the World Bank, any of the investment vehicles. And in order to get loans, you have to do what? Change your politics. You have to what? Engage in some regime change. You have to do what? Whatever the U.S. says. Okay? Not so with China. They want you to sign a deal. They want you to say what it is. These are some of the biggest points to take away, not only from BRICS, but from Belt and Road Initiative. The biggest funding of infrastructure worldwide ever. And it ain't the U.S. It's not us. Okay? And so this China-Pakistan economic corridor, where is it going to end, by the way? Iran. Where's it? There's going to be a port right before, and I forget the name of it, but it's going to be, you know what? It's called the Aprin Dry Port. It was launched this year. Okay, it was launched this year, and guess what it's going to do? It is going to go to Pakistan and link up with the same road, and China's funding both ends. One of them in Iran. And what does it do? This port is before the Straits of Hormuz because China doesn't want to go through the ports of Hormuz or the Suez Canal to get to Europe. And so they build this port at the south end of Iran before you get to the Straits of Hormuz. And again, who's the ones that can shut down the whole Straits of Hormuz? Iran. Okay, so there's a lot of crap going on. And if Trump was making deals and not getting sucked into wars that he didn't have, he'd be jumping on some of this ship. I didn't say the other word. No, I'm trying not to. Trying to be a good person. But here's another. China's first overseas high-speed train. What is it? Jakarta, Bandung, Indonesia. Creating a first overseas high-speed train. The Laos-China Railway. Laos is Cambodia. 1,035-kilometer route opened December 21. Links Kunming to Vientiane. Cost of $6 billion. And China funds them. China gets paid back for the infrastructure and the trade and through everything that they're developing. Their approach is different than ours. Okay? And I don't know. I think you should know about it. I think people should pay attention to this. I think it's important. Think about this. When I was in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, what was going on? What are those places known for? And why was I there? I was there because there's a place called the Silk Road. China transporting silk over the Silk Road thousands of kilometers to where? Persia, Iran. They were going through where? The same places that they're going through now. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzia. Well, Kyrgyzstan, depends on how you look at it. They call it Kyrgyzia when you're there. And Kazakhstan, all these places. Massive development going on there. New cars, new houses, beautiful restaurants everywhere. They are not third world countries. They're just not. And you can get anything that you can get here. You can get there. It just costs less. And it's all made in China anyway. So here's a China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan railway. 523-kilometer freight passenger under construction linking Kashgar to Uzbekistan via Kyrgyzstan will be online by 2029. China, Iran, Turkey corridor. $1.5 billion electrification of Tehran Mashhad line funded by China's Exim Bank. The new east-west freight rail from China to Iran's dry port that I was telling you about a few minutes ago was launched this year, and it will more than half transit time to get from China all the way around the South Sea into Iran, into the Mediterranean. And that is how many billions? It doesn't say, but it will take. Now, the sea route takes 30 to 40 days by sea will now be by rail approximately 15 days. The extension through Iran to Turkey and onward to Europe via Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey is now available because of their own summits that took place earlier this year. So China's got another multi-billion-dollar project for rail. They are connecting China to Europe by rail and other seaports. And they're connecting China to Africa by seaports and rail there, to West Africa by rail. It's the same. The major ports and sea corridors. Pakistan, Piraeus, Greece, under construction, 5 million, now the fourth largest port in the Mediterranean. The Gwadar, Pakistan is going to be a major Chinese logistics hub. Quoc Phu, Myanmar, is a deep sea port on the Bay of Bengal connecting pipelines. 1.3 billion expected to be completed for first runs this year, 2025. Where else? Hambantota, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a beautiful country. They have everything that we would want. Plus, they got these cool little tuk-tuk cars that you can hop on and get a tour. Bulk cargo increasing from China to Hambantota, Sri Lanka, 1.2 million tons. Nigeria. And Nigeria did what? Nigeria and the rest of Africa is kicking out the West. Why? Because we go there and we give charity. We don't develop anything. We give charity. We fund, food for the poor. Do you remember the chick, Meathead's wife? What was her name? Sally something, wasn't it? But she always was talking about feed the children. Go to Africa, and we're feeding children. U.S. government sending money to feed the children. It all disappears into corruption. What's China doing? They're going to those same places and building infrastructure. They aren't forcing regime change. They aren't doing any of that. They're building infrastructure. And so the people, a rising boat lifts everybody up, right? The people, they're raising them from this poverty, and the U.S. was just keeping them there, handing them food, right? And I'm not saying that's always the case, but everything we do ties to conditions. You need Western democracy. A lot of countries aren't ready for Western democracy. I'm not sure our country's ready for Western democracy. And by the way, we haven't done a good job of running it very well. Anywho, our democracy isn't really democracy either. We're getting elections stolen. Who's in charge of that? Who's the third world country now? Aviation infrastructure of belts and roads. The Air Silk Road. By mid-2023, China had signed 104 air service agreements and direct flights with 57 partner countries. And by the way, if you don't remember, I may have told you this the other day, now U.S. citizens don't need a visa. You can go there for 2 weeks, no visa. 2 weeks. And I'm sure I haven't been there yet, but it's on my list. I want to go. By mid-2024, 104 bilateral agreements, 57 more direct links, civil aviation projects, airports in Pakistan, Nepal, and Togo. In 2022, 175 million invested in Serbia's Nice airport expansion and in Riyadh. Their airports. Investment and debt footprint. They are loaning $966 billion in project contracts from 2013 to 2023. That's nearly $1 trillion. And 152 countries, less than 10% of those are what they call troubled projects that are overextended, not working because of disagreement or war or whatever. Less than 10%. So they've invested 900 billion, they've invested almost a trillion, and 900 billion has been successful, right? That's some good numbers, right? Between 2019 and 2021, China has issued 104 billion in rescue loans to prevent defaults. Some of those through the BRICS, saving money because they do that now through national bank countries. So let's focus a little bit on Iran in specific and see if there's anything else you want to tie to this little disagreement that they're having over the Straits of Hormuz. Port of Chabar and others are going to be used to bypass the Hormuz. Chabar is outside the Gulf. It's on the other side. Rail integration. You can go from Tehran to Mashhad. Electrification, connections west to Turkey and the EU. Integration with Trans-Caspian corridors and the European corridors. They've launched already launched the rail projects, like I told you before. And politically, they have done a fantastic job of coming up with this. You know, it's when you ask what is Iran to China, there's some money there. There's some reasons for it. You know, there's some positives that you could get out of that. There's some seriously smart people. There's some seriously wealthy people. They got tons of oil, right? And a different approach. And I don't mean this horribly. I know people like to say that Iranians had death to America. I'm telling you, a great deal of that is just what it always is. It's Hollywood taking every single Russian and turning him into a mobster, a killer, or a drug dealer. Every Russian woman and turning her, Russian-speaking woman, and turning her into a hooker. That's ingrained in a little bit. That's everything you see having to do with the Middle East. Have them show you anything anything that's not Dubai, anything other than a dust storm blowing in a desert somewhere. That ain't even true in Morocco, and they're right on the Sahara Desert. I didn't get a chance to go to the Sahara Desert tour. I didn't. They said not to take the rental car that I took there into the desert. Probably a bad plan. Into the Sahara. Sam rents a car and goes into the Sahara in his little whatever it was called, Panda. I rented a car called a Panda, and I think that was in Morocco. It was pretty cool. At any rate, let's give you a tiny bit of a summary. The Belts and Roads Initiative has evolved over the last 10 years, and China is continuing to do it. And in fact, they're speeding it up. And in fact, remember, this came after the formation of BRICS in 2008, 2009, with the 4 countries that started, and then they added South Africa, who also is a participant in the Belts and Roads Initiative as well. And they have, over the 10 years, now they're creating competing structures. I'm not saying, I don't want to be out there scaring people to death. That's not the plan. But people are avoiding America. Why? Because America can't play well with others. We are going to tell you what to do. We'll send Lindsey Graham over to your country and tell you what you need to do to play in the big sandbox with America. Lindsey Graham will tell you how to do that. And he will tell you need more war. You need more people to fight each other on behalf of America. And he even has come out and said it, as have several others. Well, we'll be happy to fight to the last Ukrainian. Ukraine's doing all the dirty work for us. Did you hear about what happened to the guy in Germany who said that? Said that Israel was doing the dirty work for NATO by bombing Iran. Did you hear what happened to him? They are looking into criminal charges against him because you're not allowed to say things that are reminiscent of Hitler's killing of the Jews. And so, because he had a high military commander, I forget which one, who said the exact same thing that Mertz said in a parliamentary session or somewhere, some important session last week, he said that Israel was doing the dirty work for Europe, and that is exactly what the person said about a group of killers that were killing the Jews for the Germans, and so he's being investigated for some kind of criminal activity because of that. Not good, not good. And I'm sorry I said that. But here it's more of a, and maybe it's not fair for him either, because here when we say, we have songs by Hall and Oates, "I'm a fool to do your dirty work." Remember that? Oh yeah. Do 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 do. I wanted to find some of the bigger projects, and I really was interested in any that are going on in Central America. So there are plenty of projects, 10 to 12 billion in Indonesia, 6 billion in Laos, Southern Asia, Pakistan, 60 billion, and we don't know how much for the airport. How much in Uzbekistan? 700 million. Kazakhstan 700 million, Iran 1.5 billion, Iraq 17 billion project in the planning stage, Alpha Port and northbound rail. That's the one to go. That'll follow all the way along, nearly the same route as the Straits of Hormuz to the Suez Canal. Saudi Arabia is having a Jeddah port expansion, the terminal expansion, and an air Silk Road freight hub. Africa, we have Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Djibouti, and how much? 3.5 billion, 5 billion. The Lekki Deep Seaport, part of the maritime upgrades. China's building everywhere. Europe, Serbia and Hungary, the Budapest Belgrade Railway, $2 to $3 billion. And by the way, when they do this, remember that Asia, Russia, have different, what do they call them? Different rail sizes. I forget what they are, but different, people who collect trains probably know. I forgot the word, but they have different rail, the way the rails are set. And so that's part of what they have to do to get these rails to be able to go all the way from China to Iran. They have to rebuild hundreds and hundreds of miles of rail that goes through former Soviet republics because they had a different rail structure, rail size. And so that's part of what's going on in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzia, and Uzbekistan. Beautiful countries, by the way, and cool train systems. I rode sleeper train several days over there. Here's some in Latin America. Peru is having the Chancay megaport for 3.5 billion. Panama, this was just taken out because Trump had a cow. They were building a high-speed rail link to avoid the Panama Canal, to have high-speed rail. Pour it on one side, pour it on the other. Quicker than, you can unload your boat, load everything up, and quicker than going through the canal. Quicker. And that was a $4.1 billion project with a canal bridge and metro lines, still under discussion, but it's been put on hold a little bit. Financial summary: in South Asia, 60 billion, Southeast Asia, 6 billion, and 6 more billion, and 9 more billion, so that's 20 billion there. Central Asia, 700 million plus a bunch more. Middle East, 6 billion. Middle East, 17 billion. Africa, 3.5 billion. Europe, multi-billion. So many in Europe, it's crazy. So I think that people should pay attention to what is going on in belts and roads and major projects and investment that's going on in the Western Hemisphere too. Remember, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Costa Rica, Trinidad and Tobago, Mexico is building. Remember that rail thing that's going across Mexico and another separate canal? That's China, and they're doing it through Mexico. And you can't blame them. And where's Mexico getting the money from? Not us. Getting it from China. Financial snapshot in the hemisphere. Vancouver is doing. Canada has $190 million coming in. 31 regional ports in the West, in the Western Hemisphere, China is building. Now, if that doesn't bother you, perhaps it should. But again, their approach is different. They aren't going in politically, they're going in economically to these countries. They aren't going in and saying, well, if we loan you $100 billion for this port is through the World Bank, you have to go into austerity measures and you got to cut these programs and you got to get rid of this. They don't dictate a damn thing. They go in and they make a strategic partnership and say, if we put this dock in place for you, it's going to cost $6 billion. We got the money laying around doing nothing. We'll build it for you. We don't have to loan it to the United States so they can build. We'll loan it to you. And when we loan it to you and your port is up and running, we can use it, and you have to give it to us free for 30 years, and then it's paid off. And but you can use it whoever else you want, but we get to use it for free. And that's what they are doing. They are building. If anybody's going to dominate the world, it's not us economically, because we're not doing the same things. So you don't have to like it, but that's the way it is. And again, I'd be happy to have you disagree with me. Phone line 573-746-8020. Jump on in. I know it's late at night, but there you go. Okay, well, we're going to move on to something else. Although I still might jump around a bit back to the Israel nonsense. Let's talk about where China stands on the Israel-Iran conflict. Okay? And it has to do with what I was just talking about. With trade routes and regional influence on the line, Beijing is walking a diplomatic tightrope between Tehran and Tel Aviv. Remember what Marco Rubio did the other day. He went hat in hand begging to China to get Iran to leave the Straits of Hormuz open. Why? Because somebody didn't think through the plan very well. And when Iran said they were going to close the ports of Hormuz, what happened? Israel asked for a ceasefire pretty quickly. Israel asked everybody to stop firing. And Iran said, okay, you stop first. And so they did. And then Trump gets to take credit. Iran gets to bomb an air base against America on Qatar. Qatar gets the thanks of Donald Trump. And everybody's happy. And the war, allegedly, is over, right? Somebody is going to take me up on that call, and I believe I'm going to answer. Hello, fabulous caller. How are things with you?
Things are great, my friend. How about you?
I am fantabulous.
Good. I'm still trying to get used to your show time. I'm a creature of habit, and so I don't stay up usually past 9 o'clock at night, but I just heard JR talking a little bit about your show and thought I'd call in and just say how much I think President Trump is a genius.
Mm-hmm. I have nothing but praise for the man nationally. Internationally, the jury is still out. I think he's making some foolish moves, but I'm willing to listen to other points of view, and I do regularly, by the way, and I always honor other points of view because that's just me.
Well, here's my point of view. I think on an international stage, the guy name one person on this planet besides you that could do better than him.
I couldn't do better than him. No. I hate to be in his shoes. I really would, because he's got liars and thieves recommending to him the same old crap that's been going on for the same old purposes forever. And I'm afraid I think you took. If you have been listening to the show, I think you heard me say that I think he took a punch in the nose over the last week, and he doesn't look as strong as he did a week ago on the international stage.
So, The Art of War by Sun. When you're at your strength, when you're at your strongest, look weak, and when you're at your weakest, look strong. So this guy is masterful. He's an artful. He's a knowledgeable. He's a tactician, a strategist, and a commander in chief. I thought Eisenhower was pretty damn good commander in chief, and I thought Teddy Roosevelt was a pretty damn good commander in chief, and then George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and those guys, and I thought Abraham Lincoln was a little bit of a leftist commie. He was just out there trying to appease a new voting bloc, just like these leftists that are doing now. They're trying to bring these people in, these illegal immigrants. And listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not opposed to people being up here and working their asses off, as long as they're paying their own fair share. You know what I mean? If they're paying their way and they're working their way and they just happen not to have a green card right now, well, let's put them on the frickin' fast track for a green card. That's what I have to say about that. But then I think President Trump is bringing this around masterfully. And I don't know that you're the biggest fan of his in the world, not nearly as big as me or JR. And I know that Ike is not a big fan, a giant fan.
I'm not anti him. I'm anti Truth Social. I'm anti.
Why?
I don't know. For lack of a better word, I'm anti big mouth. I'm a big mouth, but I'm just a guy running a little radio program. He needs to be better than that. And that bothers me, that because I know, truthfully, I know he is better than that. So why must he show his underwear like he's, the guy just got out of prison and showing his undies all the time? I don't get it. Why? You could tell me this strategy then. If this really was a strategy, I want you to point out what it was. So on Sunday, and I believe somewhat on Saturday too, just this last couple of days ago, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and J.D. Vance, all three of them were on national television shows, all three, ostensibly with words from the big guy. Here, this is they speak for the team of the big guy, and all three of them said, this is not and never has been about regime change. We want to make sure Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Well, first of all, that was a bad plan because you didn't stop it anyway. But if that was truly the case, why then on Truth Social, the same freaking either night of Sunday or the early Monday, Trump gets on and says, time for regime change? Why? If you send out your three people to say these things, why in the world are we doing that? You tell me that was a strategy of some sort and what good it did. I'd love to hear the response. And maybe it was. I don't know. I'm not saying it isn't, but it looks foolish to me.
Two-word response. Clickbait. It's clickbait, man. What
does the president need clickbait for?
Because
I need clickbait. He don't need clickbait. I don't like that answer. I don't like that. You got to come up with something else. Tell me something real.
Well, no, this is real. Here's what's real.
That's
man.
Real. Then tell me why the president needs clickbait.
I'm going to try not to argue, Sam. I'm going to present a point.
Well, no, I don't mean argue. I'm sorry. I turned it into an argument. I really don't mean that. I'm interested in the opinion. I'm interested in the explanation. I'm interested in learning why I am wrong. That's what I want to know. I honor your opinion. I want to hear it. And I can't believe it's clickbait.
to say first, I'm not saying you're wrong. Here's the point about clickbait is we have got to get people engaged, and clicking on things, clicking on controversial things. These marginal people that are in the middle, the rhinos at best, the
who I hate,
the blue,
who I also hate.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. That's me agreeing with you. Yes.
The blue-haired leftists, I can tolerate that. Those transies and all that, they are what they are. They're very marginal, and they are what they are. So I don't even consider them an issue. The issue is these middle of the road walkers thinking that they're in on it. These moderates that think they're gonna capitulate to these far left freak groups. And then the rhinos, they're the worst. The rhinos are the worst. But here's what I have to say. The good news is that people are waking up. Even the rhinos, they're learning. They're waking up because there's more of us, Sam, you, me, your brother, JR, and you, all of us out there. There's at least an 85 to 15 thing.
Well, I'm very glad you still count me as an us, even though I may not be as pro-Trump as you.
No, that's the good news. The good news is we have people like you out there, and Ike even, and Ike and I have a lot of things in common, but then, he's just not as fervent about DJT as I am. I am a giant freaking fan because that dude has gone through back channels. He has postured and put himself in position to be the president of the United States and the biggest influence on world politics in the history of humankind. He has been he's been methodical. He's been strategic. He has been on top of his game to just, put himself in position to be the guy that can say, hey, Ayatollah, I'm going to tell you this. I told you once, I told you twice, I've given you a third chance. This is your last chance. And if you're not going to comply, we're going to bomb the F out of you. And then him and Putin have a great relationship. And I watched this video recently of President Trump walking across the DMZ and between South Korea and North Korea and shaking the hand of that dictator over there and letting him know right then that, listen, bro.
When did that happen?
That happened like 10 or 15 years ago. Whoa.
I thought he did it as president. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he did do it as president in his first term.
Well, that wasn't 10, 15 years ago then.
Whatever. I forget my math, bro. Forget my math. But President Trump is he's been bestowed by God and protected by God in the hand of Jesus to come out and be somebody that could have gone 1,000 different directions, but he chose to sacrifice all of his privacy and his prosperity to be the leader of the free world. And I just have to say thanks to him, and thanks
but let me do one thing right here. Let me apologize if I have given you at all the impression that I'm not a positive Trumper, because I am. I just worry that on the global stage, where he has given up the authority to others to circumstance or to entrenched horror bureaucracy that he cannot always prevail upon to do the right thing. And I believe that what he has done, especially in the last week, has really given them the upper hand. The Lindsey Graham idiots of the planet have I believe, sold him out, because he was all over. Lindsey Graham was all over the TV on Sunday too, and that guy is no fan of Donald Trump. And so, but I'm telling you, I am. I don't want you to think that I am not, but I am very careful with what he is doing internationally, because I'm not so sure everyone is giving him enough information, or I don't know, enough to go on, and he can't. I would prefer to see a businessman than a politician. And over the last week with Iran, he was a politician. And I don't
Well,
like that.
well, Lindsey
What did we
Graham.
get out of it? What came of this 12 days? Somebody explain it to me, this 12-day war. What did we get?
I'm going to first say this: Lindsey Graham should come out of the closet and quit being a closet queer. In this day and age, it's okay to be a fucking front faggot. It's okay. So let's get that out the way. All right, now. And then here's what I have to say about President. You know what, man? I think that if we have at least a shred of something in common, it's okay. If we have 3 shreds of something that is not in common and just 1 shred of something that is in common, I think we can find a way to get along. So that's what I have to say about what you think and what I think of Donald Trump as a president. Listen, if you have 2 good words to say, I'm okay with that. And if I have 20 good words to say, I think you're okay with that from me.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
that's what I have to say about that. And President Trump he's sacrificed, man, look at that wife of his.
Well,
Look at
he got screwed. That guy got screwed. And you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to get a guy like that. I always said for forever, this is a Samism, and my last name is Trap. And so I've always said I'm Trump without the money. I've said my share of stupid things in public. I've been fooled by people before in places of power, in places that tell you one thing and do another, and I know he has too. I've had people come after me and attack me, and the only thing I can say is, that guy has lost hundreds of millions of dollars,
billions,
hundreds of
probably
millions.
a couple dollars.
Oh, hundreds of millions. He's lost. He was worth. I think they said, and JR know for sure. I don't, but I recall him being worth $7 billion, and now he's worth about $4. He has lost seriously, and he's lost respect. He's lost all of those things. He gained it back in my book, and just by being a hard ass and doing what he's done. That is a guy who doesn't quit. That is a guy who you can model yourself to be. And in fact, I would model myself to be like he is. And in some ways I am. It's like, I'll thumb my nose at people in power, and I don't care what the consequences are. If the consequences are the consequences, that guy stands up for right. And and he's one of the few people on the planet that do it, but I believe he's made mistake in a global leader role. I mean, but I would like to see a more careful and thoughtful and a bit more of an approach, especially in publicizing every inane thought on Truth Social. That drives me crazy, and I think he's better than that. He's better than that.
All right, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. So what he has done, as he has accepted responsibility. He's put the monkey on his back. He has made decisions, and a lot of them have been to ban these these backstabbers. Ban them from having intelligence.
Yeah, but they'll be back. They'll be back.
Well, but then also one of his most ardent supporters, Alex Jones, was left out of the loop on this thing. And so Donald Trump, he went in there and he dropped the bombs with the B-2s from Whiteman Air Force Base, which I went to classes there when I was in college at that base when the B-2 was being stored there. Just FYI. But No, so Donald Trump kept everything secret. He came in there, he struck them, and he came back. Zero casualties. I don't know. I think they probably, all the human personnel that were in Iran probably evacuated those bunkers or whatever and just blew them up. It was a peaceful thing that says, listen, we're going to blow stuff up over there. So remove yourselves. We don't want human casualties. We don't want bloodshed, but we are not going to tolerate your ridiculous
Well,
behavior.
guess what happened when they bombed Al Udeid in Qatar? The exact same thing. Iran broadcast it. They said, we're going to bomb you. You better go. Exactly. And Qatar said okay. The U.S. said okay. That's how we ended up there. So my question still remains: what did we get?
That's a good question. I'm taking a deep breath and I'm trying to think how best to respond to that question. I think what we got was that you're not going to mess with the boss. You're not going to mess with Donald Trump. We're going to move all our resources over there, and we're going to demonstrate to you that you are going to get in line. And if you don't, you got trouble.
Okay. Yeah, but so what? What is that? Ultimately, what does that give you? So you got the biggest wiener. You get to wander around, swing your wiener, and go, "Hey, man, I got the biggest wiener." Okay, that's great. What else?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, I appreciate your analogy on that, but I don't know if that's exactly the way I put it. But so my point is,
but you just said that. You said you don't mess with us.
Right. No, yeah, I think what I said was don't fuck with us. But
okay, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point. My point is this is that I think we, and when I say we, I don't necessarily mean I don't have a French mouse in my pocket. When I say we, I say me and the people that think like me and Donald Trump are thinking, thank goodness, thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead, like on a chessboard. And these dork ass, bitch ass, leftist creeps, freaks, fags, and fairies are not even on the board, man. They don't even know what color they are. They don't know if they're black or white. They think they're some sort of freaking rainbow. So here's my point. We just got to continue to fight the good fight. And we got to continue to put the information out like you're doing, Sam, repeatedly. Whether we agree on everything, absolutely or not. You're doing a great.
I give the information that I feel is pertinent and good for from a world perspective, and I'm so glad that you're listening. And was anything that I've given you on the belts and roads and on China's approach? Did any of that give you any pause or thought at all, or
yes. Yeah. Absolutely. China is doing something that they need to do to ensure their existence as a free or as a autonomous country. It's not free. It's socialist.
Well, I want to see what JR said. I want to see Xi Jinping, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin get together and create a new world order. Did you hear last night I gave this quote on this show, but it's not my quote. It's Vladimir Putin's quote. And he was at an economic forum a few days ago, and somebody said, everybody says you and Xi Jinping are building a new world order. Are you? And he said, we aren't building a new world order. We are formalizing the new world order, meaning the new world order already exists, and that new world order is going to be created no matter what, is basically what he's saying. The new world order is coming, and Xi Jinping knows it. So does Vladimir Vladimirovich. I wish that Donald Johnovich was involved with those two and did something to ensure that the 3 most powerful countries in the world worked together to create this new world order, because the days of Europe are sliding and gone. The days of America are not going to be as impactful, but I have a very positive thought process on us and on the rest of the world. But I think we need to play better together with our global neighbors. And by the way, that includes Iran.
I couldn't agree more, Sam. I could not agree more. We need to learn to get along. We need to stop fighting. We need to stop building bombs. We need to use nuclear power for the goodness of whatever,
Which is what I was involved in when I served in the Army,
right. So
is
my point is
elimination of nuclear weapons, and it needs to happen.
absolutely, we should completely denuclearize the entire world in terms of aggressive offensive or defensive weaponry immediately, and depleted uranium in the bullets and stuff that the 50 caliber things they shoot at each other over in the stands here and there and yonder. We need to eliminate war, man. We need to get to a peaceful place, a place
and
where
that's
we
what
can
I thought the old Trumpovich was doing.
I thought so too, and I think so too. And what he's
Well,
doing
I hope
right now
so too.
with his bomb dropping is he's saying, and man, I'm telling you, Sam, I was so sad when that took place. So sad. My heart was broken. I thought, man, Trump is down the river, and I was so sad. And then I started listening.
I never thought that way. I thought they sold Trump down the river, and I still believe that way. Trump got sold. Trump got sold a bill of goods. That's what happened.
And so he made the best. He made lemonade out of lemons, and he went in there and he just appeased some of the neocons.
I think in a big room and all the stuff that happened, that he figured out rather quickly that he made a mistake, and he said this shit is gonna end, and he figured out a way to end it and started getting on the phone and allowed Iran to save face by blowing up something in Qatar, moved everybody off the base so that it could happen, and then everybody gets to step back and wind it down. But I think, truthfully, he recognized his own mistake in following Benjamin Netanyahu, who he never should have hitched his wagon to that shooting star, because it's nothing but a dud. And it just wrong. And I really appreciate your call, but I've only got about 3-4 minutes left, and I want to wrap up. If you go ahead, if you got one more thing.
One more thing. So what happened was that he had so many different irons in the fire, President Trump. I thought the price of oil was going to skyrocket. I thought gold and silver were going to skyrocket. Oil has gone. So he must have had someone in his back pocket to say, listen, we're going to go do this over here, and we got to make sure that you guys keep the price of oil under $100 a barrel. And not only did that happen, it went down to 65. So
yeah, but Iran doesn't have that big an impact on oil.
20%
not for
on
us.
The world. Not for us. But I'm saying he had to have had that backing, because the situation was this, that if they go in there and start bombing shit, Iran is going to get pissed, and they're going to sink their own ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and they're going to block that, and they're going to disrupt 20% of the world's oil, which is going to cause oil prices to skyrocket and cause inflation to skyrocket. Well, Trump had to have some sort of back channel that ensured that didn't happen, because I was sure that once they bombed over there, Qatar and the Arabian, the Gulf of whatever, and the Strait of Hormuz. You know better than me.
Straits of Hormuz, yes, and Qatar and Saudi Arabia made that happen for him. That's what I believe. Yeah. Perhaps I'm wrong, but that's what I believe.
They kept the Strait of Hormuz open, and Iran is like, they're toast, man. They're surrounded by people that don't care for the mullahs and the mujahideen and all those crazy Islamic freaks like Barack.
Well, we can agree to disagree on some of that, but I very much appreciate your calls. And I very much appreciate you being there for me. So you have a very good evening, okay?
Always there for you, Sam. I love you, bro.
Thank you. And there he goes. Very interesting call. I wanted to tell you about China and where it stands on the Israel-Iran conflict and get to discuss on that. But we are in the process of winding down. I will upload this to internationalflavor.com and to damradio.com/podcast. podcasts so that you can listen to it at your leisure over and over again, because that's what we like. And I'm here every night, Sunday through Thursday, at damradio.com/live, and anytime you feel like at internationalflavor.com. And I do it in Russian too. That's kind of entertaining, and I'm trying to figure all that out some more. But that's mainly on my YouTube channel. You all have an extremely pleasant sleep this evening. I never sleep, so goodbye.